Hi, I'm Mitch, and welcome to the Restoration Road, where today's guest is Indiana Wesleyan University men's associate head basketball coach, Jeff Clark. And he's going to cast a vision for us today called I Am Third. I Am Third. I want to ask you a question. Would those closest to you say that you put God and others first? The ultimate passage in the Bible on that topic is Philippians 2, 1 through 11. And I just want to read you today verses 3 through 5 so that you can see Jeff's story through these verses. Philippians 2, 3 says, "Don't do anything from selfish ambition or from a cheap desire to boast, but be humble towards one another, always considering others better than yourselves. And look out for one another's interests, not just for your own. The attitude you should have is the one that Jesus Christ had." I like to think of this as three circles. And the closer they grow to each other, the more we're in the sweet spot of where God wants us. And those three circles are God's interests, my unselfish interests, and the interests of others. Thank you so much for joining us today, and enjoy the Restoration Road. Jeff, thank you so much for being here today.
It's a privilege, thanks.
I think a lot of people in our area don't know that you grew up here. I mean, if they were a Leo basketball fan, they did. But can you talk about your experience of growing up in Leo?
Sure, I grew up to some incredible parents. My father, Jack's a chiropractor here in Fort Wayne. And
so you were never out of a line?
No, free treatments anytime, yeah. And he's a man, I get emails weekly from him at 4 a.m. about something he was in the Word reading. You know, he's just a passionate man of God.
Oh, my goodness.
My mother is one of the most generous people I ever met. So just grew up in an incredible home and just an environment to really know Christ from a young age.
That's powerful. You had that foundation, and we'll talk about your story, but what you've done at Indiana Wesleyan University is created an I Am Third environment that has led to national championships, being ranked #1 in the nation for an entire season. And I can't wait to unpack that, but I love realizing that whether you would have articulated that way or not, ever since you were born, you had an I Am Third foundation laid in your life.
Sure, yeah, the influence of my parents and a lot of people I grew up around, a lot of powerful influences from older people, and really set the stage for my whole life. And, you know, I'm a story of restoration, you know, just broken areas of my life, but I think a lot of people can resonate that.
Oh, absolutely.
Being saved at 4 or 5 years old, but then the Lord continuing to show you different areas that you need to restore back into His image.
Amen. You have a best friend you grew up with, and his dad ended up playing an influential role in your life. I want you to share that.
Sure. Tony Beaulier was my best friend from first grade, and we just grew up dreaming big about what we would do in basketball. And his father was my high school coach and played a critical role just in discipling me through the game of basketball from a young age all the way through high school.
So talk about your high school career with Coach Beaulier.
Well, I played next to Tony, so we had a lot of success because he was a phenomenal player. And we won 2 sectionals and the ACAC 3 times, got beat my senior year, which is something I'm still a little bitter about.
I can tell.
It was a great time playing at Leo High School.
What was it like having a coach who knew you so well, almost like a second father? Was the bar higher on you? Was he tougher on you? Was he more understanding or forgiving and lenient, or is it all the above? How would you describe it?
A little bit of all of it, but he definitely would drive us hard and expected a lot from Tony and I, and it was a big part of my growth and still influences my coaching.
So you're lighting it up in high school, and you got a college decision to make. And where'd you pick, and how'd you make that decision?
So I went to Anderson University, and I really wanted to play at a Christian college and just go to a place where I could grow in my faith and play basketball. And just through a lot of prayer, that's where I ended up.
Tell me about your college career, and also take me to that classroom where God did something inside you.
Sure. Well, basketball was clearly an idol to me going into college, and I based a lot of my identity on basketball, and I wasn't that good. So when you go and you want to play and you want to build your identity and you don't have a lot of success, there's some frustration there. And I remember my junior year, I wasn't playing a lot, and we weren't having a lot of success, and I was just ready to be done. I was ready for basketball to be over.
Now that's got to be the first time probably you've ever felt that, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love basketball, but I had put too much importance on my own success and what I could get out of basketball. And I was studying finance, and I was ready to be done and get married and go make a lot of money. And I was in an upper-level finance course, and we took a final test. And the final question on the test was, who in this class would you hire if you were running a company? And afterwards, the professor called me up and said, Jeff, every single person in this classroom picked you that they would hire.
Oh my goodness.
And you aced the test. You're the best person we have in analyzing financial statements. You have a bright future. And what was said as a compliment and something to really push me forward felt very hollow to me.
Wow.
And it's not that I don't agree with finance in general. Some of my accountability partners in finance, some of the most influential men in my life are in the area of finance. But in that moment, I knew that wasn't what God had for me, just because it felt hollow, and I knew God had other plans.
And how did you begin to sense what those plans might be?
Over the course of the rest of that season, I spent a lot of time praying, and I felt like it was going to be in coaching. But that summer, I went with Athletes in Action to Russia, and for the first time was really surrounded by guys who loved basketball as much as I did, but also loved the Lord as much as I did. And for the first time, I really submitted basketball to Christ's authority, and it was on that trip that I really just felt this call into coaching. So my senior year, my first semester, I took 22 hours. My second semester, I took 23 hours, and then I student taught the following year because I wanted to get this education degree in case it was high school coaching the Lord wanted me to go into. And because I was student teaching, I had a connection with Indiana Wesleyan and volunteered my time that first year, and that kind of led me to where I'm at. And you can see, looking back, just the Lord's hand clearly on that whole thing.
Yeah, I can see that in my life, how you'll look back and say, oh, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
That's what was going on. Well, I want to unpack I Am Third, but I want to read some things first. You've been on the bench for the 9 most successful seasons in Indiana Wesleyan University men's basketball history. And you as a Wildcats have an overall record during that time period, and it's always on the move because this is going to be a little bit different by the time everybody sees this. But 251 and 66, a 792 winning percentage. I don't care what you're playing. If you win 80% of your games, you are doing something special. You've won 8 conference championships in the 9 years that you've been with the program. You've been ranked in the top 6 in each of the past 9 seasons. 4-time winner of the INB News NAIA Assistant Coach of the Year Award. You're obviously making a significant individual contribution. You've mentored a post player to first or second team All-American in 6 of the past 7 years. I love that. I love how the excellence of work hard, work smart that Proverbs talk about is happening here. And you focus on offense, which I love, post play, and you are a natural, gifted recruiter. So if there's anybody watching who wants to play with the Wildcats, you need to get in touch with Coach Clark.
Well, I got to say, thank you for all that, but my boss, Greg Donegal, our head coach, he's just a phenomenal leader. And if you put 100 people in the position that he was put in 10 years ago when he started the program, I'm not sure any of them would have had the success he had.
Really?
And working for him, you could put 100 guys in my role, and it would have taken a pretty big bum to not get the job done working for a guy like that. So don't give me too much credit.
That's awesome. Well, talk about I Am Third. You eventually were hired at Indiana Wesleyan. You didn't have to volunteer your time anymore. And you have this vision as a coaching staff. And I really want to focus on that because I think it's one of the most powerful concepts that a believing athlete or coach or athletic director can hear.
Sure. I Am Third is God first, others second, and yourself third. And what we tell our guys a lot is if you want to be first find a way to be third. And we talk about that on the court. We talk about it in the weight room. We talk about it while we travel.
Say that again.
If you want to be first find a way to be third.
Wow. Wow. Okay, you talk about it everywhere.
Yeah, it's just who we are. It's our identity. When we go recruiting, it's the first thing we talk about. When we, bring someone into our locker room, it's in front and center, and it's really the foundation of our program and really what our culture and our identity is.
Now, a lot of people or organizations or teams will say, hey, here's our idea, but they don't implement or execute that idea in every facet. Can you talk about how you implement and execute that idea in everything from practice to your devotionals to travels or missions trips, but how you make that relevant in post play or in guard play?
It really goes into every part of our program. So, for example, our offensive identity, when we have the ball on offense, we don't talk about what plays we run. We don't talk about what our offense is. We say there's two things. First, you catch the ball fearlessly. And second, you create for a teammate. So there's these two foundations of our offense that go back to I am third. They're biblical concepts. And you could go down the line, whether it's defense, post play, maybe it's recruiting. There's threads of I am third in every area of our program. And it really does run deeper than just a catchy slogan. It's who we are.
So a player knows that he's going to be measured by Philippians 2, by humbling my unselfish interests to God, the interest of others, and of course, above all, the interest of God. That's going to get fleshed out, and that's how my success will be measured. Tell me how that works for the athlete.
I think most of our athletes come in like me to college where they care too much about basketball. It's an idol to them. So what happens is the person who's in charge of that, your coaches, their words probably carry too much weight. Our power and influence is probably greater than it should be. And that's why you see so much corruption in coaching, in my opinion, is because you have a powerful voice in these young men's lives. Well, we're saying we're going to leverage that power and influence, and we're going to train and disciple our guys in the I am third way. And what we see happen over the course of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years is guys don't just say, hey, I am third. They live I am third. And as their hearts change and they really live that way, it naturally flows onto the basketball court. And I think if you came and watched our games, you'd say, hey, there's something different about this team.
Walk me through the locker room, because even the locker room says I am third.
Sure, when you come in, God's done so many incredible things in our program. He's brought great support. And one of the things we have is a locker room where people come in and they say, Indiana, Purdue, and Indiana Wesleyan are the three best locker rooms in the state, which is it's powerful for an NAIA school. Well, when you go in, the first thing you see is a big I am third right front and center. And underneath it is the passage you cited, Philippians 2, 1 through 11. And to touch on that, we go on mission trips every 2 years. And before our guys can get on the plane, they have to stand in front of their teammates and recite Philippians 2, 1 through 11. And if they don't get on the plane. So
I love that.
It's a big part of our culture.
I would think that when a player memorizes that, that is absolutely forever life-altering, transforming, because it's in direct opposition to what our Western culture says.
Yeah, and everything we're trying to do in leadership development is trying to go against the cultural norms and what the world's telling us. So out of that, there's two key themes that we pray every single day as a team and as a coaching staff. So collectively, we could be one in spirit and purpose, and individually, we could have an attitude like Christ. And those things, we hope, are things our guys are praying when they're 30, 40 years old, because they were praying them every day while they were in our locker room.
I need you to say that again. That is so powerful.
Collectively, we would be one in spirit and purpose. And individually, we each would have attitudes like Christ. And those are pulled right out of Philippians 2.
Right. Man, well, talk about how you teach or model that in your missions trips every other year.
Sure. So we've gone most of the time to Dominican Republic, and we have a great relationship with Go Ministries, just a powerful ministry where God's on the move. And we'll spend all day ministering to the poorest of the poor, whether it's digging a ditch for a community to have a cistern when they had no running water, or maybe it's feeding a meal, the only meal of the day, to a bunch of youth. And then at night we'll go play against the professional teams in the area. Well, if you're talking about I am third, if you're talking about creating for a teammate and not taking bad shots, it's a lot harder to take a bad shot or be selfish or be lazy when all day long you've been doing that kind of work for the Lord. And really, when our guys leave, they'll look back and they won't say, hey, being ranked number one was the most important thing. It was those mission trips were life-changing. And we see that every single year. God just does things in our own hearts as a staff, but also in the hearts of our guys to really change who they are. You
said two things I want to ask about. One is taking the right kind of shot. Do you have like good, better, and best shots that you talk about?
You know, we changed about 4 or 5 years ago. We used to talk about bad shots all the time. But this concept that keeps coming back to us is fearless. We want to train our guys to play fearlessly and to play with freedom. One of the concepts of offense that we talked about was create for a teammate. So when you mesh those two together, you're going to be fearless every time you catch the ball, but you're going to have an attitude of creating for a teammate. So we haven't talked about a bad shot in 3 years, and what we've seen is bad shots have gone down as we've taken that approach.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to ask is, do you have students or players who are not believers that come to your program and then they see this culture, maybe push against it a little bit, and then eventually surrender their lives to Christ?
When we go recruit, we're leading with I am third, and we're leading with fearless. And you attract what you present.
Yeah.
So we've seen the level of player go up, and there are players that come in and they don't have faith and they aren't sold out for Christ. But if they know who we are, and they know the level of discipleship and training that they'll get when they're here, in a way they've already accepted it as a part of their future reality. So we definitely have seen guys come to know the Lord and be changed in radical ways, but we're always leading with I am third now as we go out and we recruit.
I think that goes back to authenticity. In our postmodern culture, authenticity is the number one value because our postmodern culture deconstructs everything and everybody they see. They peel away layers. And so if somebody's the same all the way through, then authenticity grows as you go to the core. If you're pretentious or deceitful, authenticity weakens as you go to the core. That they're not the same in their car or on the court or in their house that they are when they're talking to me right now.
Sure, and we think this generation, they understand that because with social media, all they see is people trying to create an image of themselves.
Exactly.
So they see right through people who aren't authentic. And when you are authentic and you present who you are, they're attracted to that.
They are. For I am third, you don't just have the players. I've had 2 daughters in college athletics so far, 2 to go, I think. And I noticed that one thing that never leaves, no matter what the environment is, you even see it in professional sports, is that the parents want their kids to have a whole lot of playing time. Tell me how you guys kind of head that off in advance through establishing positive relationships.
Sure. So 4 years ago, Coach Tonnell had this idea to do a father-son retreat. And I'll be honest, I was a little hesitant. I was thinking, well, what about the dads who don't want to come? Or what about the players who don't have a great relationship with their fathers? But we prayed about it, and as a staff, we said, we got to go for this. And over the last 4 years, we've just seen this grow in incredible ways. So every year, we'll do something fun. This year, we went whitewater rafting in West Virginia.
I think I texted you while you were whitewater rafting.
That's right. That's right. And last year, we went to a Cubs game, and it's just something fun where we're gonna let fathers see behind the curtain and see what really goes on in our program. There'll be a spiritual element, but a lot of it's just let's connect fathers and sons. And we haven't had a parent complaint in 4 years.
Is that true?
It really, yeah, we have not had a parent who's reached out to us about playing time. We have conversations. We have great relationships. So sure, things have come up, but it's never been in a complaining way. And there's really a great bond between all of our parents because they all see what is the heart behind our program and they appreciate what's going on with their kids and in their hearts.
My goodness, every coach needs to hear that. That is just incredible. Couple seasons ago, you won a national championship, and on that locker room wall, superimposed on the championship picture, is the bracket. And you're the only team, I think, in NAIA history, or is it in other sports as well?
In NAIA history, basketball.
That won each game in the tournament by double digits, 10 points or more. I really want you to share the amazing stories that unfolded in that tournament.
Sure. Well, I could talk about this for an hour. So we had a week off before we were going to go into the national tournament. And we had been playing well, but we were really bad defensively, and we were unsure about how we'd be going forward. So we just, as a staff, prayed, what do we focus on? And we'd been talking about fearless all year, just what does it mean to be and live and play fearlessly? But the Lord just kind of spoke into our hearts. You press into this. Don't press into basketball, press into fearlessness. So for a week, we just dove into the Word, and we brought in 3 different men who are affiliated with Indiana Wesleyan, and all of them have influenced me and been mentors to me in some way, but just great godly men. The first was Keith Newman. He's the CEO of Residential Education. And to all of them, we just said, give us a word on courage or fearlessness. And Dr. Newman shared about the most courageous man he knew, and this guy's slogan was, no Bible, no breakfast. So before you can feed yourself physically, you have to nourish yourself spiritually.
I love that.
So then Steve DeNeff, who's the pastor of College Wesleyan Church in Marion, came in and he talked about the difference between courage and confidence. So confidence is always based on circumstance. So if I just made my last shot, I'm going to be confident in my next shot. Courage is based on belief in the one greater than your circumstance. So if you can play with courage, it's different than confidence. Then Wayne Schmidt, who's the vice president of our seminary, came in and he's talked about Joshua in the Bible, and he shared how public moments of courage flow out of private intimacy with God.
We better say that one again.
Public moments of courage flow out of private intimacy with God. So this is what's been fed into our guys' hearts leading in, and every day we'd wake up, and before we ate breakfast as a team, guys would share what they got out of the Word that morning. And we go into the first game, and on the way, our best player, Jordan White, he was an All-American, second all-time leading scorer, first all-time in assists at Indiana Wesleyan. On the bus, we were talking about the fears we had going in, and he said, it's my job to take us to our first Final Four. We'd been to the Elite Eight 5 times, and it's the moment I've been waiting for. I can lead us there. And you just felt this tension in his heart. And he goes out in the first game, and he has 6 points and 5 turnovers. And he's dribbling the ball off his foot and throwing it over people's heads. We win, and we advance to the second round. Second round, again, he has a subpar game. He scored some points, but you can just tell he wasn't himself. Well, the morning of the Elite Eight, so this is the moment. He can lead us to the Final Four. You heard it in his voice, like, I have to lead us to the Final Four. He comes down in the morning, and he runs right to me. He said, Coach, I can't wait for no Bible, no breakfast. I said, well, tell me. He said, no, just wait. So he gets in front of the guys, and he said, last night at 3:19 a.m., the Lord woke me up, and he took me to Psalm 18. And he said, in Psalm 18, I'm reading in the middle of the night, and I'm just weeping because the Lord, King David, is writing this psalm about how the Lord gave him victory in war and just how to be a warrior for the Lord. So he shares this with the guys, and the guys are going crazy. They're so excited for him. So that night he goes out and he has 35 points and 12 assists.
You're kidding me.
And in 8 years, we had never had anyone have 35 points or anyone had 12 assists.
And he did both.
So that was what? Not confidence, it was courage.
Yes.
He was lifting his eyes off of the circumstance. I have to take us to the Final Four. onto, I'm going to go out and worship tonight. And you saw it in his play.
Wow. So that victory, which is a spiritual one, takes you to the Final Four.
Right.
And you're winning. You're beating everybody by 10 points or more along the way.
We're playing really well.
And now something's shifted.
Right.
The environment's different.
So we continue every morning, no Bible, no breakfast. Leading into the Final Four, one of our freshmen, Lane Mahurin, he comes down. And Lane, as a senior the year before, had not had a great game in the state championship game. And he was kind of carrying that burden still. They lost in the state championship at Rockville High School, and he was kind of carrying that with him. And he comes down and he said, guys, last night I woke up in the middle of the night, and I've never really connected with the Lord in the Word before. But I remember Jordan had, so I just figured I'd go into the bathroom, turn my light on, and start reading. So he said, I'm reading some familiar passages and just not really connecting with it. And I just start praying, Lord, like, just let me have an encounter with you from the Word. I hear guys talking about it. I would love to have that. And he said, while I'm praying that, I'm staring into space, and the headings on the page just come into focus. And the 3 headings on that page was, have no fear, do not be anxious, you must be ready.
Oh my goodness.
And he said it was just this encounter with God where I just knew he was talking straight to my soul. So God's waking our guys up in the night, taking them into the Word, and then they're coming and sharing those words with their teammates before breakfast.
No Bible, no breakfast.
Right, exactly.
So that's right before the first game of the Final Four.
And we go out and we won 98-77 in the Final Four. Just played with a fearless mentality, an I am third attitude, and just played a game like you've never seen before.
Against a very good opponent.
A very good opponent.
Well, does he wake anybody up in the middle of the night before the championship?
Well, so that night, the team we were going to play in the championship, they actually won in their Final Four game by, it was 40 points. It was like 95-64. And this team had already beaten us prior in the year. They're from Nebraska, just a very good team. So our guys watching that game, it was a pretty intimidating game to see them play this way.
Yeah.
So they come to our scouting report that night that we were playing the next day. And we just as a staff felt led to do something a little different. So before we went into the scouting report, we shared a little Devo and we turned on some worship music, and we just had the guys pray with each other and just pray against fear going into the next day. And we saw our guys praying with each other, and a lot of them were crying as they just prayed for their teammates. And God just filled that room, and it wasn't about us playing in a national championship game. It was just about a bunch of men just experiencing God together. So we go into this next game and just had this incredible game. We played well. We led the entire game. Our guys played fearlessly, and we win by 11 points. And the buzzer goes off, and, you know, as a staff, you don't plan for what you do when the buzzer goes off.
Right.
You're just trying to win the next game. So we go through the handshake line, and the first thing our guys do is they get right in center court, and they just pray, and they thank the Lord for a fearless mentality and an I am third attitude.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was a public moment of courage flowing out of the private intimacy with God the night before.
What a picture. That's incredible. Jeff, the I am third foundation and philosophy, the vision, is powerful. But you talked about authenticity. It doesn't really work if it's not working everywhere, including at home. Can you talk about your wife and kids and how you try to do I am third at home?
Yeah, sure. It's the greatest challenge, right? Is
Yeah.
to engage your wife spiritually and lead her. And I have 3 young boys, 5, 3, and 1. And it's the greatest challenge and the greatest love of my life to try to do that at home. And the great thing is my wife is an incredible coach's wife. She loves our guys.
Oh.
And to have 13 players who love the Lord, and to bring my 3 sons around that environment is just an incredible thing for them. So we see all the time the ways we're growing as leaders, whether it be as coaches or with the family, it really flows over into every relationship you have.
That's beautiful, because it is relationship, not religion. And probably when your kids get a little older, your boys, you can do no Bible, no breakfast.
Yeah, my 5-year-old just got Philippians 2:1-11 down. So
Come on, man.
You
That's
know it,
awesome.
man. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Jeff, thank you so much for being with us. Indiana Wesleyan University men's basketball is an unbelievable picture of I am third and God's heart applied to the sports competition arena. And thank you so much for leading others to the I am third vision.
Thank you.
My challenge to you and to myself is, would you consider memorizing Philippians 2:1-11? What a difference this could make in our lives as the word gets into our heart and then comes out of our mouths as we live the I am third vision. Please send us your story of I am third to info@mitchkruse.com. Thank you so much, and God bless you as you walk Restoration Road.